Hello, dear lovely IELTS candidates. Hope you're fine and welcome to my channel, IELTS with Ralph. In our previous part, if you have seen the video, you know that we worked on grammatical range and accuracy in your IELTS writing task 1. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about punctuation. Punctuation is one of the most important areas in your writing. The examiner are so much interested to see that you have followed to the point in your, let's say, essay or your task 1 academic writing. And knowing where to use commas, apostrophes, capitalization, semicolons, and things like this will definitely improve your band score. And I will start with using commas. So where to use commas. You know, commas can be very difficult to use in English. However, for the IELTS essays and writing task 1 academic writing, there are 4 rules that are the most relevant. So the first rule is if the dependent clause, so pay a lot of attention here. We talked about independent and dependent clauses, and you can find in my YouTube channel, especially the part that is related to some basic rules in writing. You can find the video. So if the dependent clause comes before the independent clause, we use comma at the end of the dependent clause. So we have a dependent clause, and then after that there is an independent clause. We use comma at the end of the dependent clause. For example, even though junk food is unhealthy, so even though junk food is unhealthy, this is our dependent clause. So at the end of this, we use comma if there is an independent clause after that. So even though junk food is unhealthy, comma, many people consume it due to cheaper costs. This is an independent clause, all right? Our next rule is use comma before any coordinating conjunction that links 2 independent clauses. So there are 2 independent clauses, and a coordinating conjunction is linking these 2 independent clauses. Now let's take a look at an example here. Computers doubled in sales from 2003 to 2004. This is an independent clause. Then we use comma, but this but is our coordinating conjunction. Their price had dropped to half. Their price had dropped to half is another independent clause. So we have 2 independent clauses, and one coordinating conjunction like but is used to link these 2 sentences together. So before the coordinating conjunction, we use comma. This is our second rule. The third rule is use commas to separate the items in a list. So we have a list and there are some items. So we use comma. For example, people can improve their mood with a healthy diet, exercise, and a healthy social life. So before each of these items, we use comma. And the fourth rule is use a comma after an introductory cohesive device. For example, finally, or alternatively, or for example, or as a result. All right, so before these let's say introductory cohesive devices, we use after these cohesive devices, we use comma. Now our next let's say punctuation rule is about apostrophes. So apostrophes are used to show contraction of words, for example, isn't, doesn't, don't, right? And possession. For example, we say France's population or Germany's cars. The first one, that is about contraction, is never used in academic writing. So either in task 1 or task 2, you should not use any contractions. So we only use apostrophes when we want to talk about possession in our academic writing. All right? So there are 4 rules that we can follow in order to use apostrophes. The first one is for a singular noun. So if we are referring to a singular noun, we use apostrophe plus S. For example, our nation's population is rapidly increasing. So nation is singular noun, and we use apostrophe plus S. For singular and plural nouns which end in S, all right, only apostrophe is used without any S. For example, ensuring job satisfaction of the employees is the boss' responsibility. So boss ends in S. So we do not use any other S, only apostrophe. And our next sentence, the education of children is their teachers' responsibility. Here we have teachers as a plural noun, which itself ends in S, so there is no need for another S here, only apostrophe, right? Our third rule for irregular plural nouns, we use apostrophe plus S. For example, the word like children, it's irregular plural noun, so we use apostrophe plus S. For example, children's views are usually shaped by their parents. And rule 4, do not use an apostrophe for pluralizing a regular noun. For example, it is incorrect to say there are numerous traditions in the world. The traditions using apostrophe plus S is incorrect if we want to pluralize. So it is correct to say there are numerous traditions in the world, right? So this is one of those mistakes that I sometimes encounter when reading the candidates' essays, that they want to pluralize a noun, so they were using apostrophe plus S. This is incorrect. Our next part is about capitalization. So I'm going to talk about 4 rules that you should capitalize your words. The first one is you capitalize the first letter of the first word in a sentence. So the first word and the first letter is always capitalized. For example, every country has a rich and unique history. Our next rule is capitalize proper nouns like names or names of places, names of scientists, important person. For example, research conducted by Harvard University in Massachusetts shows that. So we have the name of the university, it is a specific name, and we have the name of a place, the name of a city. So it is always capitalized. For months like January, February, and days of the week, so they're treated as proper nouns and are capitalized. But seasons like summer, autumn, winter, spring, they are not capitalized. So an example sentence: after a sharp growth in March, the profit from banana sales plummeted in December, but recovered by the following summer. So as you can see, months and days of the week are capitalized except for seasons. And the names of school subjects like math, algebra, geology, psychology are not capitalized, with the exception of the names of languages like French, English, Spanish. Only these subjects which are related to language are capitalized. For example, my favorite subject in high school were Spanish and psychology. Now let's turn to semicolons. Where to use semicolons? Again, I'm going to teach you 4 rules that you should follow when you want to use semicolons. And you should remember that semicolons indicate an audible pause that is longer than a comma. All right, so it is an audible pause, which this pause is a little bit longer than comma. And it is shorter than a period. So a period is a full stop. However, a semicolon is shorter. The pause of semicolon is shorter than a period. So the first one is semicolon is usually used to link 2 independent clauses that are closely related. So there are 2 independent clauses that are closely related to each other. So after the first independent clause, we use semicolon. For example, some people write on computers, others prefer to write by hand. So it is clear that we're talking about writing. The only difference is writing on computer and writing by hand. So they are kind of related to each other, and they are independent clauses. So in this case, we use semicolons. Next rule is avoid a semicolon when a dependent clause comes before an independent clause. So if we have dependent clause before an independent clause, we use semicolon. For example, we do not say, although they tried, semicolon, they failed. You remember that in this case, when we have dependent clause, we should use comma, not semicolon. So avoid using semicolon in this situation. That would be better to say, although they tried, comma, they failed. Our third rule, use a semicolon before words or terms like namely, however, therefore, that is, for example, for instance, when they introduce a complete sentence that are followed by a comma sometimes. For example, science is one of the most significant subjects, semicolon. However, comma, the arts are just as important. So as you can see, we have these words like however, namely, therefore, that is, for example, for instance, and we have used however here, and it introduces a complete sentence, right? So after this, we have a complete sentence. The arts are just as important. So in this case, we use semicolon before however. And our fourth rule, do not capitalize ordinary words after a semicolon. Do not. It is very important. I've seen so many candidates capitalize their words after semicolon. So it is wrong to say, I am here, semicolon, you are over there, as Y is capitalized. Instead, you should say, I'm here, you are over there, without capitalization. And one of the most important things in grammar is writing numbers. It may seem a little, actually it may seem pretty easy using numbers in your Task 1 academic writing, but there are some rules that you have to follow. So we'll start with numbers 10 and below. So we spell out numbers between 0 to 9, right? But when the numbers are in a list, it is better to use or to write them numerically. For example, this is correct. It was found that 4 out of 10 students failed. So 4 is a number between 0 and 9. So we spell out the number, all right? However, this sentence is incorrect because we're using the list Take a look at this sentence. She has 4 sisters aged 6, 8, 12, 13, and 17. So as you can see, 2 of the numbers are spelled out and 2 numbers are written numerically. All the numbers should be written numerically because we're referring to a list of numbers. So the correct sentence is she has 4 sisters, aged 6, 8, 13, and 17. All right. For numbers 10 and above, we write numbers that are 10 and above in numerals, right? Unless they are at the start of a sentence. So basically in the middle or at the end of a sentence, we write numbers in numerals unless they're in the beginning or at the start of a sentence. For example, residents aged 60 and above should receive free medical insurance. So it is written in numerals. However, 70 children came to the class trip this year, but last year there were 90. So as you can see, 70 is spelled out because it is at the start of a statement. Now let's talk about times. We use numerals for time of the day, AM or PM is also written. And also AM and PM can be written differently. For example, AM or PM, or A dot P dot or P dot M dot, A dot M dot and P dot M dot, all right, like this. Or you can either use it not in capital letter like AM, right, or PM. So there are 4 ways to write AM and PM. Now let's work on some examples of times. For example, it starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. So 5 o'clock. It starts at 5:35 a.m. So when using AM or PM, we write the numbers in numerals. It starts at 6 a.m. or it starts at 4 p.m. About dates. Dates are written in numerals, so do not use ordinal numbers like, for example, first, second, third with full dates. All right. For example, it is incorrect to say school begins on September 2nd, 2019. All right. When we have September and we have the year, so we do not use ordinal numbers. That would be better to say school begins on September 2, all right, comma, 2019. For percentages, we write percentages in numerals unless they appear at the beginning of a sentence. So when it's in the middle, like this sentence, according to the latest study, 63% of teachers live in the city. So it is in the middle of a sentence, so we write in numerals. However, if it's at the beginning of a sentence, we spell it out, like 80.5% of students drive to school. So it is spelled out. For fractions, we always spell out simple fractions. We always spell it out. For example, it is incorrect to say about 1/3 in numerals. 1/3 of the science class comes from Japan. So we are writing this in numerals. It is fraction, so it is incorrect. The correct sentence is about 1/3, it is spelled out, of the science class comes from Japan. And decimals. So we write decimals in numerals. Avoid starting your sentences with decimals, all right? So what is decimals? Now, take a look at this example. There was 0.86 inches of rain this month. It is incorrect. We never spell decimals out. So the correct sentence is there was 0.86 inches of rain this month. All right, that's the end of our today's part. We talked about punctuation and writing numbers in IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. And I hope you've enjoyed today's lesson and has been really helpful to you. Our next session will be about trend graphs. We'll start writing graphs and we'll start writing sentences using complex and simple structures from our next part. And you will know how to start writing and analyzing data from next session. All right, enjoy your time, stay tuned, and until next session, goodbye.